What is going on? And welcome back to your NSP waiver wire pickup. We are back at it again. This week's going to be kind of crazy. We got a lot of teams on bye. We got players like Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb dealing with injury. And we had players like Puka Nacua who got ejected last game. So we are hitting up the waiver wire to see who could help us out and win our fantasy matchup. Of course, if you guys have any questions, please leave it down in the comment section below or catch us on our live stream tonight. And as always, we start off with quarterbacks. So number one, let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, he is owned in 48% of leagues, but we had 3 weeks back to back, really ever since Devontae Adams got in, that they are finding their groove, right? Aaron Rodgers is getting there with the points for fantasy football. He is averaging about 15.95 points for fantasy football, and he's currently ranked 13th in quarterbacks for fantasy. So he's going up against the Arizona Cardinals, which is a great matchup for him, especially if you have a quarterback on the bye. After him, we got Matthew Stafford, very similar to Aaron Rodgers, but instead of having Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams, this guy, he gets Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp back. Yes, Puka Nacua did get ejected last game. I don't think he's going to get ejected every single game, and Matthew Stafford did manage to still get 18 points last week. He is going against Miami. I think that's going to be a very pass-heavy game. So Matthew Stafford is another great option if you are in need to stream a quarterback. That's all I have. But of course, if you guys want more guys in those positions, let us know in the comment section. Who else can I pick up? Both those guys are already taken, and we will give you more options to choose from. Or you could join us on our live stream tonight here on YouTube as well as TikTok. So up next, we got running backs. We're going to talk about Jaylen Warren. I'm not too crazy about the running backs this week. Jaylen Warren is more of a handcuff guy. He is still seeing quite a bit of production for being the backup. I still believe Najee Harris is the bell cow in that offense, but if you are in a super deep league or just absolutely desperate for a running back, you could get lucky if Jaylen Warren scores a touchdown, and he's definitely a guy who you want to handcuff just in case something does happen to Najee Harris. After him is someone who is very similar situation. We have Ray Davis from the Buffalo Bills. Ray Davis is owned in 25% of leagues, and yes, he did score that touchdown last week. It kills me. I have James Cook in multiple leagues, but Ray Davis is another premium handcuff guy that you want to hold on to just in case something happens to James Cook, because we all can see it. If something does happen to Cook, Ray Davis is the guy to take over and really just own that backfield for Buffalo. After that, we're going to talk about some wide receivers. Number one, I got to talk about my boy again, Jauan Jennings. Yes, I know he's owned in 60% of leagues, but they're coming off a bye. Jauan Jennings is coming off an injury. They should have Christian McCaffrey back, so it's a whole new offensive play style. And we've seen multiple times this season alone that coming off a bye, there is a new play scheme where players who, had a small role now have a much larger role, especially due to injury. Now with San Francisco not having Brandon Ayuk, there's a big possibility that Jauan Jennings can be that fill-in spot, especially if you're in a deep league who need a flex position. I think Jauan Jennings is worth the roster. So after that, we're going to talk about two guys here. They're both from the same team. Number one, let's talk about Xavier Legette. So Legette's owned in 49% of leagues, right? He is now the go-to guy, wide receiver for Bryce Young, but let's just remember that is a piss poor offense, bottom 5. It is what it is, but he's leading the team in targets, and he is going up against the New York Giants next week, so he could be worth a roster spot for you. And I will go out there and mention, this goes for both guys, that I do believe that the Carolina Panthers will be trailing most games. So guys like Xavier Legette and our next guy like Adam Thelen, who is owned in 37% of leagues, he's still on the IR, but this is a perfect time to snatch him up and hold him, especially if your league allows you to have an IR spot. So if you could go out there and get Adam Thelen, there is a small possibility where Adam Thelen is that guy where he was last year, the first 6 games, right? That go-to guy for Bryce Young. If he is, or if he does become him, this guy would be a great roster spot, big brain moves right there. So if he's out there, he's available, and you have no one on your bench, if you're desperate, if you're clinging on a thread of hope, Adam Thielen, it's a small possibility, but high risk, high reward. He could be that guy. I highly recommend getting him if your team allows you to have an IR spot. So up next, let's talk about tight ends here, which has been arguably the most difficult spot to fill in for fantasy football this year. And we're going to go back to Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry has looked great the past 3 weeks. Now that he has Drake May back, I think this guy would be awesome just to start week to week, or at least a great streaming option, depending on who you have as your starting tight end. Last week, he had 12 points and he had 8 targets last week, which there's no denying that Hunter Henry is a huge factor in this team. After him, we're going to talk about Jonnu Smith like we once did. Jonnu Smith remains a factor for that Miami offense, even with Tua back. He did have 6 targets last week, but I see this guy more of a streaming option just in case you have a tight end on a bye week. He won't be the worst matchup going up against the Los Angeles Rams. So if you are like me, I love to stream defenses to give you the best possible opportunity to win. So these are the defenses that I see that you could stream to get you the most points that you possibly can. Number one being the Buffalo Bills, then the Minnesota Vikings, then the Chargers, and lastly, yes, we're going to talk about the Eagles going up against the Dallas Cowboys, who just lost Dak Prescott. And if I'm not mistaken, he will be missing maybe a couple of games, right? That injury looks pretty bad. So that's all we got today. Of course, like I said before, if you have any questions, please leave it down in the comment section. We will answer every single question, or join us on our live video tonight here on YouTube or on TikTok, whatever you prefer. We are at NSP Football Talk on TikTok. We have a great time out there. So thank you all so much for watching. And of course, until next time, keep on grinding.